Welcome back to United Case Report. You know, most of the betrayals we cover in this courtroom have some kind of complicated backstory. Some gray area. Some, well, you could see how someone might think, no, not today. Today's case is about as clear-cut as it gets. A woman went to work. She came home. The locks had been changed. And her stuff, her belongings, her furniture, her personal items, were gone. Because her roommate had sold them. While she was at work, she had done nothing wrong. Let's get into it. Meet Angela, 29, a healthcare worker from Ohio who had been sharing a two-bedroom apartment with her roommate. We'll call him Brandon, 31, for about 5 months. The arrangement had been cordial enough at the start. They had found each other through a roommate matching app, split the rent evenly at $750 each, and mostly stayed out of each other's way. Then Brandon lost his job. He didn't tell Angela immediately. For a few weeks, he maintained the illusion of a normal schedule. Then he told her. He said he was looking for work, that he'd have next month's rent, not to worry. Angela, being a reasonable person, said okay. She'd cover that month's rent and they'd figure it out. The next month came. Brandon did not have rent. Angela covered it again, but told Brandon she needed him to find a solution. She said she couldn't carry them both indefinitely. She said this calmly, with a 2-week grace period. Brandon's solution was not to find a job. His solution was to move his girlfriend into his room without asking Angela, and then argue that with 2 people in his room, his share of the rent should be reduced. Angela said no. Brandon said he was going to pay less regardless. Things deteriorated quickly. There were arguments about the girlfriend's presence, about noise, about shared spaces. Angela asked the girlfriend to leave. Brandon refused. Angela contacted the landlord, who was largely unavailable. One Thursday morning, Angela left for her 7 a.m. nursing shift. She planned to come home at 3:30, rest, and call the landlord again that evening. She came home at 3:45 to find a new key lock on the front door. Her key did not work. She knocked. No answer. She called Brandon. No answer. She texted. No response. She called the police, who arrived and spoke to Brandon through the intercom. He told the officer that Angela had moved out and that he had changed the locks for security purposes. The officer asked for evidence. Brandon had none. The officer informed him that Angela was a legal tenant and that changing the locks was an illegal lockout. Brandon was compelled to open the door. Angela walked in. Her room had been emptied. Her bed frame, gone. Her dresser, gone. Her television, gone. Her bookshelf, her desk, her kitchen appliances that she had personally purchased, all gone. Her clothing was in a pile on the floor. Her important documents, tax records, birth certificate, nursing license copies, were scattered across the hallway. Brandon told the officer he had get rid of her furniture because he was reclaiming the space for other purposes. Angela called a second officer. She photographed everything. She left that night with a garbage bag of clothes and went to a coworker's home. Angela filed in small claims court for $8,700, the replacement value of her furniture and appliances, documented with purchase receipts and photographs she had taken when she first moved in. She also claimed 2 weeks of hotel costs after the lockout, during which she could not return to the apartment. Brandon arrived in court claiming that Angela had owed him money, a claim he could not document, and that he had sold her furniture to recover that debt. He also claimed that several of the items he sold were actually his. Angela had photographs of every item, time-stamped from when she moved in, clearly showing her name in marker on the bottom of the furniture legs, a habit she had developed after a previous bad roommate experience. Her name, in marker, on the bottom of the furniture legs. Judge Judy reviewed the photographs. She reviewed the police report from the lockout. She reviewed Brandon's text messages, in which he never mentioned Angela owing him money. In fact, in one message sent 2 weeks before the lockout, he had texted her, "Hey, you're actually a good roommate, sorry things got complicated." She looked up and said, "She went to work. She came home." The locks were changed. Brandon said, "There were issues between us." Judge Judy said, "What issues justify selling someone's furniture while they're at work?" Brandon said, "She owed me." Judge Judy said, "For what? Show me one message, one text, one receipt, one anything that shows she owed you money." Brandon shuffled through papers. "Nothing." Judge Judy said, "She covered your rent twice. There are bank records here. She covered your rent while you moved your girlfriend in without permission. And then you changed the locks and sold her bed." Brandon said, "I needed the money." Judge Judy said, "That is not a legal defense. That is not a moral defense. That is not any kind of defense. That is a confession." Full judgment for Angela, $8,700. Plus the 2 weeks of hotel costs, an additional $100. Total, $9,800. Judge Judy added, "The photographs of her name on the furniture legs are the kind of evidence that wins cases. But the fact that she needed to write her name on her own furniture to protect it from her roommate tells you everything you need to know about the situation she was living in." Angela had done one smart thing before any of this happened. She had photographed her belongings when she moved in. That one habit, which took maybe 20 minutes, became the evidence that won her nearly $10,000 in court. When you move into a shared space, take photos of everything, with timestamps. Send them to your own email. It takes 20 minutes, and it can save your financial life. Brandon, for the record, was evicted from the apartment 3 weeks after the judgment by the landlord, who had finally become aware of the situation. He was also reported to the police for the illegal lockout, though the DA declined to prosecute. Angela found a new apartment. A single occupancy this time. Smart. This has been United Case Report. Subscribe and comment below. What would you have done in Angela's situation? See you in the next case.